Hey there, everybody. Matt DJ, how are you doing? Looks like we got one thumbs up already and 6 people watching. We had 6, now we have 5. So one bailed as soon as I opened my mouth. Perfect. Anyway, haven't done a live stream for a little while. Figured I'd jump on and don't really have any topic necessarily to talk about. Oh, wow, we're dropping them like flies down to 3. Oh, well, I'm sure it'll pick back up a little bit. Actually, I do kind of have a topic to talk about. And if any of you guys are on Facebook, To the Top Crane is on Facebook, so you can find me on there. Also, Cranes Are Awesome is a page on Facebook, which is a very good page to get your crane fix on. There's a bunch of people, over 10,000 people, posting random crane pictures and whatnot on there. So, Jacob Metcalf, how are you doing? But also on that Cranes Are Awesome page, admin was nice enough to make me a moderator on there. So if you get kicked out of the page, there's a good chance it was me that did it. No, what I was meaning to get to with all that, I ran into a fellow YouTuber, 2 of them actually, on Cranes Are Awesome. Let me pull them up here. One of them almost has 1,000 subscribers. It is close. And we know the 1,000 subscriber threshold is what you have to get to become considered for monetization. You also have to have 4,000 watch hours in the previous running 12 months, blah, 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 all that YouTube stuff. Mike Manfred, how are you doing? John Warren, good evening, Jimmy. How's it going for you? John, I'm doing well. I'm hoping you're doing well after your surgery. Mike Manfred, tell Charles I said hello. And Mike, plug Charles's ears for a quick second. His package is in my truck. I just got to get it dropped off at FedEx. Okay, so that's done. But back to what I was talking about. Trista Mays has been a subscriber on this channel for quite some time. And I can tell you, being a YouTube creator, it is hard to find time to watch other people's content. Like when I first jumped into YouTube, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be able to watch all this stuff, and it just doesn't happen. So, T. Roy, how are you doing? Robert Cowger, how are you? Mike Manfred, getting closer. Matt Schmitz, how are you? Matt Lee, saw me out and about today. But anyway, Tristan Mays has almost 1,000 subscribers, 917. He's got some cool drone footage, lots of crane videos. I believe he's over in England somewhere, but you guys probably want to go check his channel out. And then there's another one. Oh, Kevin Sutherland, thank you for that. Says, how do you get a job as an oiler, and what does a job require? I have Class A license as well. Would that help get a job as an oiler? That would absolutely help you get a job as an oiler. A person can't have too many credentials when it comes to getting into the crane world. So your best bet, go to your local union or find a company that does crane rental and see if they're hiring. See if you can get on as an oiler. Okay, so this other channel, and this is a brand new, well, I say it's a brand new channel. It's not necessarily a brand new YouTube channel. They posted their first video 7 years ago, but it's not even a crane video. However, now, within the last week, they have 2 crane videos posted. It's a person out of Australia, and nobody freak out about this. It is a female crane operator that is breaking out into a male-dominated profession. So she's making videos, and the channel is called Tradie Glam. So TRADIE space GLAM. So go over there and check that channel out, and it's drone footage. And we were chatting a little bit back and forth on the Cranes Are Awesome page and whatnot. And I told her, I said, you're going to have to eventually get yourself in front of a camera and start talking to people, mixing some drone footage in. And I'm kind of trying to help with the growing their YouTube channel process. It's she and her husband's company, and I'm trying to get them a head start on the whole YouTube thing. So Tradie Glam, she's at 14 subscribers right now. So don't be afraid to go over and hit that subscribe button on that channel. Let's see, Matt Lee. Yeah, it was definitely cold today. We got the crane out, went to go do a job, and got to the site, and it was completely covered in ½ inch to an inch of ice, and the ground kind of slopes to one side about like so. So one, we couldn't get trucks around to get the crane set up, then also move it's a tank. It's another tank job, believe it or not. I mean, I've been inundated with tanks, but it's another tank job. We couldn't get the tank, or wouldn't be able to get the tank over to us. And so we, in lieu of getting someone hurt, decided to do it a different day. Rail, glad to see women going into different fields that has been dominated by men. Jim Harris put the links up where they can be clicked. Here's the thing on that. I'm not sure how to do that with the way YouTube has their live streaming set up now. It looks like Mike Manfred and John Warren are the two moderators I got on the live stream right now. If you guys could find those pages, would be awesome, and throw a link in comments. I hate to do anything on my computer when I've got a live stream running, because it would never fail. I would end up shutting the live stream down by accident. Matt Schmidt said -40 yesterday in North Dakota. No, thanks. I think it was 1 degree this morning here, and that's plenty cold. And actually, the Tadano has, if I'm not mistaken, a lower operating limit of -13. So, and really, who wants to work when it's that cold anyway? John Warren says, give the names again, Jimmy. Okay. Tradie Glam, TRADIE space GLAM. This is what you're looking for, John. Focus. So there's that one. And then this is the other one you're looking for. Come on, focus. Tristan Mays. So Reyes is going to be below freezing tonight in the Florida Panhandle with a wind chill of 20. All you people in Florida are going to die down there with a wind chill of 20. Don't you guys start bundling up at about 60? Just me. I just left Tulsa yesterday morning. It was 26. Happy to get to Southern California to warm up. Isaac Hillstrom asks, what do those guys do? They're both crane channels on YouTube. So Mike Manford says me 55. So 55 degrees is your threshold for getting bundled up down there. Scott Trudeau, 61 here in South Florida. I'm freezing. Oh, if you only knew. Rail said, I don't till 38. We will walk around in a t-shirt at 40 here. Short sleeve t-shirt. Matt Lee says 20 watching, only 4 likes. Smash the like button, folks. Okay, John Warren says text him to me. So Lute, how are you doing, Lute? Says 12 in St. Joe. That is freezing. And I think Lute and I are going to become new friends. We have a mutual friend that is trying to put together something to where I can go talk to some schools and get some kids interested in the trades. We haven't pushed that enough as society, and you guys have heard me preach this before, and I can go off on a tangent about it. But you when society and high schools and colleges push everybody to go to a university and get a degree, then that leaves a shortfall in the trades industry. And now they're projecting by 2026 that electricians are going to start. And Mike Manfred is, if I'm not mistaken, a lineman, so he could probably confirm or deny this. But they're saying by 2026, electricians are going to be starting at six-figure salaries. It's hard to achieve that with a master's degree. Plus, when you're learning in the trades, you're getting paid to learn, not having to pay to learn. Andy B, how are you doing? Sorry about that loss yesterday. Okay, I got to find these channels real quick and text them to John Warren. So let's share this one. We're going to copy the link. We're going to go down to John Warren, and I would show you guys all his phone number, but he would probably be upset about that. So once I get these sent, we will jump right back into things here. I'm going to share that one, copy link. All right, John, you should have them. All right, just me says, preach, Mike Rowe. And ADB, I'm not sure if you caught that. Sorry about that loss yesterday. That, or maybe you caught it and just chose not to acknowledge it. But okay, so just me wants me to preach. How much of a soapbox do you want me to stand on about the trades? I mean, realistically, right now we have a shortage that is unbelievable. Billy Laptop, thank you for that. Man. Says, hi, Jimmy, finally caught you live. A belated Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Well, thank you for that, Billy Laptop. Okay, so John Warren just posted a link to one of them, and then the next one will be coming up. But anyway, right now we have an extreme shortage of tradespeople. There's a shortage. There's a shortage of truck drivers. There's trucking companies offering ridiculous sign-on bonuses. There's a shortage of plumbers, pipe fitters, electricians, welders, iron workers, carpenters, millwrights, operators, you name it. Anybody that likes to make money with these, there's a shortage of them. So what that means is for those that went to college that are earning a decent income, they're going to be paying these tradespeople a huge sum of money in the future to make sure their toilets do this and not do this. So, every time you walk into your house and you flip a light switch on, there was a lot of people had their hands in the process of making that light turn on. It wasn't just you doing it. Those jobs are going to pay a whole bunch of money. They already do pay a good salary, and it's going to just keep going up. So we've got to get kids interested in this stuff. And part of what Lute and I are going to be doing, I'm hoping, I haven't met him yet. I mean, he said he's going to jump on, watch the live stream. Completely informal meeting here, but part of what I'm hoping we're going to do is maybe set up some opportunities for me to go into some of these high schools and talk to kids, and maybe we'll get the Tadano out and go drive around to some high schools and set it up and let some kids check it out. So let me get caught back up on comments here. Matt Lee, interns coming through my place is starting above 15 an hour plus benefits. 25 years ago, $7.50 an hour, and the management squealed when we got 10 and 18. Rail, a couple of local companies offered $2,000 sign-on bonus. Lester and Thompson push the trades. I can't find a person to hire. It's a huge gap to fill. I will pay top dollar. Lester and Thompson, if you want to elaborate on that in comments, and if you have a website or something you need to share or anything to help fill your gap, by all means, feel free to use this channel as your platform to seek out individuals for for your position. Isaac Hillstrom, just because you're in the trades does not mean you weren't cut out for college. That's fact. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventures, how are you doing? Oh, he says part of the reason is because employers reject disabled people. Jim Harris, I don't know. I'm kind of afraid to ask. Zenon Watts, how are you? Said I'm interested in the trades if I was old enough to actually get a job. Mr. Big says I didn't go to college and make over $100,000 a year. Mike Manfred, that's what Charles wants to do, and he's 9 go trades. Matt Schmitz, they need riggers in North Dakota. Seth Grayson, it's -1 here in Vermont. Good show. Real Jet 54, I like the shirt. I actually put this shirt on before I came down here because it came down to the crane cave. And the reason why I did is I had some stuff on my other one. So I didn't want to look like that guy. I've already got kind of a scruffy beard. John Warren, feel free to post them off and on throughout in comments if you'd like. And I would appreciate it, and I'm sure so would they. Isaac Hillstrom, I would argue many people in college aren't cut out for trades. And I don't disagree with that either. But I've also seen firsthand high school counselors trying to corral everybody into colleges and preaching. And when I was in high school, of course, that was 25 years ago, the high school counselors were saying, hey, you're going to have a college degree to make any money or to have a decent career in the future. And that's not a fact. And they're still pushing that mindset. It's a stereotype. And realistically, there's a meme floating around out there where there's a mom walking with their kid and they see someone digging a ditch and like, hey, you need to go to school because you don't want to be like that guy. Well, that person digging the ditch is probably supporting their family better than the mom that was telling their person in that meme, hey, you don't want to be like that guy. And realistically, what kind of example is that setting? But so, there's got to be an outlet for these kids that don't want to go to college to find their niche and earn a good living. And they don't push the trades enough. I mean, I guarantee you could walk into most high schools in the country and go in and talk to the high school counselor, and their objective is not pushing the trades or even offering the trades or even telling kids about the trades because the high school counselors don't know so much about the trades. So Mike Manfred, hammer update, please. Hammer update, gallery, camera. Where is it at? See if we can get it to focus. That is the current state of the hammer. And the garage just got completely rearranged and cleaned out to where there is plenty of room to work on the hammer now. So this Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to be in the garage all day long, welding, cutting, and grinding. I'm gonna get as far as I can get in about 16 hours a day. So we'll see. Rail says great video of the undercarriage. That was tougher than I thought. When I was on that creeper wheeling around underneath that crane, trying to hold my GoPro in my right hand and an LED shop light in my left hand, I didn't realize how difficult that was going to be to record any footage. I'm surprised it turned out like it did. And I wasn't overly happy with it. I was actually thinking about not uploading it, but I was like, they want to see it. This is what I got. Matt Lee finally got the counselor to have a careers on wheels where we can bring out our equipment, show off, and talk to outside trades a few years ago. Would be a hit. Southern Dirt said, when I graduated in 2013, I was told I would never make any without college. And I was told the same thing, and I didn't go to college. Let me back up. I went to college for a few weeks and I determined, hey, this is not my thing. So I went back to doing what I know how to do, and that's fix things and then operate things. And then now this is where I am. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventures. I remember one day in 4th grade, I was at my elementary school and somebody brought in a Cat 953C. They had it there all day. It was the coolest day ever. Just me says my nephew doesn't want to go to college. Talked him into the Air Force as air traffic controller. 20 years there, 20 in the real world, and he is set for a great retirement. That's a fact. Rhinus says, hi, I follow your videos, and they're fantastic. Very interesting. Greetings from Holland. I think you're a good, safe crane driver. Keep the good work up and stay safe. Well, thanks for the compliment. Yeah, thanks for the compliment, and thanks for watching. John Horn says he didn't know how much you use your arms to move on a creeper. That's a fact. Also, another topic we can talk about, part 1 of the rigging video. I've started working on part 2, and I started making some slides in PowerPoint. I thought maybe I would do some slides. Do you guys prefer the slides or dry erase board? I mean, I haven't shown any slides on a video on here, and I'm not even really sure how to get a slideshow from PowerPoint onto YouTube, but I've got friends that play with computers, so maybe we can work it out. But would you rather the dry erase board or slides? Before you answer that, I got a new dry erase board, significantly bigger, so you can see my terrible drawing in greater detail. So there's that. Matt Schmidt's more than one way to skin a cat. So I'm just checking messages here, quick, fast, make sure I'm not missing anybody. Sorry for the delay. Just me says, found the rigging video very interesting. A lot of great info. Dry erase board for me. I like on the fly training when structured and then structured. Matt Lee said, how'd the Christmas fun of the Noise Home go? Never heard how it worked out. So some of the donations did not come in like I had anticipated. I've still got a chunk of money sitting. So the money that you brought to the shop, Matt, I still have it sitting. And then we had a few other donations in cash that I still have sitting. And then I have some donations in PayPal. And since Christmas has passed, I'm thinking we're going to do a big Valentine's. Maybe we'll do a Valentine's party for them all at the Noise Home, since that's the next holiday coming up. And from what I was reading and what I was told, the Noise Home was pretty well set on Christmas. So I'm thinking we'll roll in there with like a bunch of pizzas and some cash and some toys and some games and do a Valentine's party for them with it. Mitzvah Golem, how are you doing? Andy B, whatever. Either way, I'll watch it. Willard says, whatever is easiest for you. Alex Williamson, Blind Adventures. I think that is part of why my interest is so great in trucks, because the track loader day. I could definitely see that. Ryan's 989. Not sure if you covered how to get into the profession. Tips would be great. Thanks, Jasper. So the best way to get into the profession, well, the way I got in is right after high school, I went to work for an equipment rental company as a field mechanic. Well, immediately after high school, I ran a car topper for Herzog Contracting. So if you want to look that up on YouTube later, that's an interesting machine. Matt Lee knows what it is. But it's a modified backhoe. You climb on top of rail cars and unload rail cars with it. But then after I left there, I went through the EMT program, became a licensed EMT, and then didn't even use my EMT license, but got into heavy equipment. So if you can find a company that is willing to bring you in, and I'm not sure where you're located, but as an oiler, rigger, or truck driver, or in the shop, sweeping the floors, whatever, just the biggest thing is to get around cranes. The more crane related experience, then the better off you will be. The other option is get into your local trade union and the operating engineers and go through their apprenticeship program. Tradie Glam, there's Tradie Glam in comments. Says, hey Jimmy, I'm here all the way from Australia. How you doing tonight? Doing well. So you can now write down here in the comments, if you hover over Tradie Glam's comment, there will be 3 dots that pop up. If you click on that, you can click go to channel. So you can run over there to her channel, click the subscribe button and the notification bell, because I think she's probably going to have a video coming up soon, and then come back here and finish watching the live stream. And then when the live stream's over, you can go back and watch your stuff. Ryan says your drawings are clear enough. Maybe using presentation board on legs easier. Funny you say that. So, and don't laugh at my sweatpants. Ta-da! Sorry if that was loud. So, it's funny you mentioned legs for the dry erase board. And here's a quick snippet. It's going to be very quick because I don't want to give it away early. That's a lot of writing on a dry erase board. Ryan's 99 says, thank you. What are your thoughts on ATS training? Thanks for the insight. So here's my thing with the crane training, that you can just pay and go sit in a classroom for 3 or 4 days. Then they send you out the door with crane certification. That's all well and good. However, on-the-job training is not replaceable. You can't take someone, and I will fight tooth and nail, and I wish they would change the standard on it, but you can't take someone that has virtually no crane experience, throw them out the door with crane certification, and have them go out in the real world and operate safely and effectively. Cranes are a machine that you need to spend some time around, and you need to do it with someone that's knowledgeable. So, I'm not a big fan of the, hey, come here, pay us $300 or $400 or $500 or $1,200, and we'll kick you out the door with a crane certification card, unless you have previous crane experience. If you have crane related experience where, you've worked for a company and then now you're required to have crane certification, and you're just trying to better your career, then by all means, those places are a good outlet to get some training and get your certification, but make sure that you have experience first. Let's see. Alex Williams' Blind Adventures. I heard Car Topper was actually one of the very first videos I watched when I subscribed to YouTube back in 2011. Tradie Glam says, hey, Jimmy, do you want to have a chat about different crane lingo between Australia and U.S.? Absolutely. I think everybody would like that. We got 39 people watching now. We lost a few. I think it may have been my gray sweatpants when I jumped up and got my tripod for the old dry erase board, but Trade Glam also says, I agree with training. We don't have what you have in the U.S. They get their ticket with no experience. Like here or over there, as far as getting their ticket with no experience? Because I don't agree with the no experience thing. That's no good. People don't understand. People that aren't familiar with cranes don't understand the complexities that are involved with cranes. Ryan's 99 says, I don't disagree. Just looking to get my foot in the door. I really love your videos and breaking into the how-to and whys. Thanks for your time and effort. If there's something you want to see, by all means, throw it out there, and I will try to get it in a video. Sometimes it's hard. It's with my job. It's not like I can just go in there and say, hey boss, I'm gonna spend 3 hours setting the crane up and doing various things and shooting some footage. But if it's something I can incorporate while we're out on a job, I will absolutely do it. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventures. I have not seen the video for your new semi yet. Mike Manford, nothing can replace experience. That's a fact. Tradie Glam says, I hear you don't have Dogman in Australia, and I don't even 100% know what a Dogman is in Australia. So if you want to throw it in a comment, I will read it out, and I will tell you the closest equivalent to that in the United States. Isaac Hillstrom, technical training should be paired with on-the-job experience. You should be deemed qualified by your employer. Yep. Warp 65, or what happened to the contact lens. I'm surprised someone caught it, but I did switch back to contacts, and I still have the contacts. However, I went through this transition when I went from contacts back to glasses to where I lost a lot of depth perception. And I mean, I wasn't off by inches. I was off by feet. Like when I say feet, about 9 feet. Like just stuff that was 20 feet away from me, I was way overshooting it because of the distance from your eyeball to the lens. Well, now that I've been wearing glasses for over a year, I popped the old contacts in, went to the shop, set the crane up to load counterweights, and lo and behold, my depth perception was off again because I no longer had the lenses an inch in front of my eyes. They were stuck to my eyeballs. So I've got to force myself to go one direction or the other. And right now it's not too bad, but I need to force myself probably to go back to contacts so I can use good sunglasses in the crane. Joe Stocks asks, how'd you get your start as an operator? Does your state require an extra license for operator? I got my start working on equipment and working on a bunch of different kinds of equipment. And naturally, when you're working on it, you have to operate it. You've got to be able to bring it in and out of a shop. You got to be able to load it and unload it. And you got to be able to test it when you're done working on it. So from 20 years old to 30 years old, I worked for a heavy equipment rental company. We worked on had everything from floor scrapers and chainsaws to boom trucks and Broderson cranes and backhoes, dozers, excavators, you name it. So I had to work on all that stuff. And then I was approached to get into the operators union. And so I jumped in the operators union, and it's been that way ever since. But yes, a license is required to operate a crane. Matt Lee, they still do run the car toppers, but not as much as what they used to. I think their MPM trains have kind of taken over some of that. Ryan's, that'd be a good video topic. I need to do that one of these days. I also got me a notebook to keep down here so I can write some of this stuff down. So planning, pre-planning. Mitzvah says it takes about 5-10 years to get hours to be New York State and New York City license operator. Seat and book time mechanics also. Kevin says, do you like or dislike crawler cranes? I don't dislike any crane except for maybe I'm not a fan of stand-up boom trucks. I guess I kind of dislike them, but I don't really dislike any crane. I prefer hydros because that's what I've spent the most time in, and that's what I'm the most comfortable and knowledgeable about is hydros. If you guys started bombarding me with a whole bunch of crawler questions, I would have to get back to you on a lot of them because I don't know all of the ins and outs of crawler cranes because I haven't spent much time in them. I mean, I know enough I could go operate one, but as far as specs off the top of my head and different models and whatnot, not so much. So I'm partial to hydraulic cranes because that's the industry that I'm in. And I'm in crane rental, so, all-terrain hydros make sense. So Tradie Glam says the dogman is the person who selects lifting gear, hooks up loads, and gives signals to the operator on where the load needs to go. We use hand signals, whistles, and radios. So over here, that would be a rigger / signal person. In the United States, you are supposed to be, it is a requirement that you're a certified rigger if you're hooking anything to the hook of a crane. So the rigger selects the lifting gear, hooks up the loads, gives the signals, and lands the load. We don't use whistles. Radios, hand signals. Actually, I'm going to do it in the order that I prefer. Hand signals, radios, cell phones. And Mike answered that right under you. He said that's called the rigger here. Chef Matt, how are you doing? Says my application was not accepted. A better opportunity came up on the other side of the state that I live in. God closed the door and opened another door with a larger window. That happens. So Tradie Glam says, at Mike, a rigger is a completely different thing there. So a rigger, I think a rigger in Australia, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think a rigger in Australia is more experienced than a dogman over there. So I think the Australian rigger is more experienced, has more training than a dogman. I think a dog, and don't be afraid to call me out on this. So dogman, rigger on the ladder. Tyler Kinsey, totally agree on the field experience. I find it also helpful to get experience on hydraulic cranes like boom trucks. You feel more of what the crane is going to do. Yeah, boom trucks. Also, if I sit in that Tadano and I go jump in a Manitex, it feels funny for a little while because everything you do, you feel it. And that Tadano, it's pretty rock solid unless you're really putting it through its paces. Joe Stocks says, state of Massachusetts requires a hoisting engineer license for all types of equipment, not just cranes. So like tuggers and whatnot, which that's not a bad practice to have. Mike Manford, tower crane. I don't. Mike knows that I don't operate tower cranes. I don't put myself higher than corn or lower than potatoes. An old man told me that once. He said, in order to ensure your survival, you never put yourself higher than corn or lower than potatoes. And there's a lot of truth to that. Alex Williamson, Blind Adventures. When I was at the beach for Christmas, I saw a couple of Brodersons with man baskets working on a house next to ours. Mike asks, what traits do you look for in a good signaler? What are some bad signaling habits? So, traits I look for, if it's radio communication, I like to get a countdown. I like to know how high the piece is above whatever I'm landing it on, because if I'm getting radio communication, I obviously can't see the piece. And I've run into this on a few jobs to where I was setting units or whatever, and they just tell me to cable down. Well, then I'd have to get back on the radio and be like, well, how far am I cabling down? Because it's going to make a difference. If they don't give me a countdown, typically what I'll do is just cable down really, really, really slow where they can barely see it moving. And then they'll give me a distance. But, if I'm 50 feet above a roof, I'm going to stand on the skinny pedal and give it a whole bunch of cable down so I can get the load down there quicker. If I'm 6 inches above the roof and I did that, then it'd be a catastrophe. So what I'm looking for in a signal person is someone that can communicate effectively and has an understanding of what is going to happen when they request a certain function. And I've run into this before too, to where they want a piece to go away from you and to the left, and they're not sure what signal they have to give to get that to happen. So there ends up with a little bit of confusion there on their part, and it makes the job go slower. For reference, if they want the piece to go away from the crane and to the left, then they need to tell me boom down, cable up, and swing left. Lester Thompson says, what? Tradie Glam cell phones aren't allowed here. They're allowed in the crane cab here to be used for signal purposes or during downtime. I mean, you just can't be sitting there talking on your phone while you're making a pick unless you're talking to the person that is giving you signals. Barry Hansen says, same here in New Zealand. And Barry, how are you doing, Barry? Tradie Glam says, yep, you're right. A rigger here is the person who puts bolts in holes, so puts the steel together. They also control multi-crane lifts, set up fall nets when scaffolding isn't available. Yeah, see here, that would be iron workers' work. And multi-crane lifts, any certified signal person here can can control a multi-crane lift. Lester Thompson, I live by potato and corn. Chef Matt says, video suggestions: mechanical versus electric versus hydraulic, synthetic winch line versus steel winch line versus aluminum winch line, and communications. I have yet to see a crane with aluminum winch line on it. And I don't have any cranes available to me with synthetic rope on them to do a comparison. And I haven't worked around synthetic rope enough to give you an honest, good video on that. So I don't know how I would do that one. Mechanical versus electric versus hydraulic. Most everything in a crane is either mechanical or hydraulic, with electric over hydraulic controls. I haven't seen a crane yet with an electric winch on it. So I appreciate the ideas. And I mean, if you think of something I can run with, then I absolutely will, but it's got to be something I can record and incorporate. Tradie Glam says, we do use cell phones between crane drivers and multi-lifts, not meant to, but we do. Really, any communication is communication as long as it pertains to what you're doing. Lester and Thompson said, did I do something wrong? I posted a job opportunity earlier. No, you didn't. You absolutely didn't do anything wrong. I encourage you to post a job opportunity if you'd like. Did someone call you out on it? Did I miss something? And Lester and Thompson and I go back a ways. He trained me in some of my Genie service training for Genie boom lifts and scissor lifts back in the day. So I don't know that I could pick him out of a lineup if I saw him, but I do remember some of the classes, and I remember a lot of the information that they threw out. Tradie Glam says, jib down, hook up, slew left in Australia. Yeah, here it's boom down, cable up, and swing left. Some people use slew also, but over here, the jib is out on the tip of the boom, which is like the lattice boom pieces on those. And the crane that I operate has a hydraulic luffer on it. So if they tell me jib down, then I'm going to luff my jib down. I won't be booming down. It's weird, the different lingos from country to country. Tim's Gift says 45-ton hydros are the most common that he's seen in northern Vermont. Very versatile. They are, in fact. Jim Harris, the folks who put steel up are connectors. They're followed by bolt crew. Andrew Camerata, how are you doing? And glad to see you here. Says, ever use a remote controlled crane? That would help eliminate the need for signaling. I haven't, and I've got kind of mixed feelings on the remote control cranes. On the smaller cranes, I don't see it being an issue. On the bigger cranes, once you start losing the sense of feeling for what that machine's doing, I think it could lead to catastrophe pretty fast. When you remove the butt from the seat and they don't get that feedback anymore, I think it could go south in a hurry. I've seen concrete pump trucks put on their butt because remote controls, and they didn't know the machine was moving because they were watching what they were doing. They didn't know the machine was turning over. And so when you're sitting in the seat, you can feel when something's not right. And being right there next to it, you can hear it if something's not right. So, I mean, I could see the pros and cons to having a remote. And Andrew, while you're on here, let's talk real quick about my last rigging video while Andrew's on here. There was a lot of people that thought that I was picking on Andrew, and that was not the case. I absolutely was not picking on Andrew. That people have been following this channel long enough know that I am not one of those people. The only reason that I put Andrew's name in the title of that is I wanted Andrew to see it, and that I knew that would put it where he would see it by putting his name on there. And I tried to include the information that I felt was relevant in Andrew's video when he was picking that stuff. And it's great information that will help Andrew in the future when he's picking stuff up. I deeply admire Andrew's get it done attitude. And as far as respect to cranes, it's one of those things that if you're not careful, it will get you dead. So Andrew, please don't think I was picking on you in that video, because that was not my intent. Although there was a lot of people that thought it was. Andrew said I did buy all new slings. There's a place near me that sells crane rigging. And Andrew, if you ever have a question on anything, by all means, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'll throw my email on here if you want it, and then so if you want to shoot me an email, I will give you my cell phone number where you can, like, if you're getting ready to do something, you're like, hey, I'm not sure about this, take a picture of it, shoot it over to me. I'll look at it and give you my 2 cents. And I mean, if you even want it, but the offer's there. If you want to take it, the offer's there. I will help you out however I can. I would hate to see something happen if I could help prevent it. It's one of those deals. That's a pretty cool project you're putting together with the container castle, I must say. So I got back up. Let's see. I skipped ahead a little way, so let's back up and get caught up on some comments. Mitzvah says we have a Terex boom truck remote control. Awesome to rig alone. Tradie Glam, yeah, you're right. Our riggers do everything. If you're a signaler and iron worker. Joe Stocks, I have no time in a tower crane. None. 0 zip, nada. I didn't lose nothing up there. I got no reason to be up there. I admire tower crane operators, and I am very impressed with what a tower machine is capable of, but I am not that guy. I have a very profound respect for gravity. And yeah, tower cranes enhance that whole respect for gravity. So I'll keep myself within about 14 feet of the ground. Mitzvah says, young guys take math, electrical, hydraulic, etc. Lots of good tech jobs open. That's a fact. Tradie Glam says the tip like that, we call it the fly. So here, the fly for us is like if you have a 2-piece jib and you swing the tip, or if it slides out the end, that is what we call the fly. So what you guys call a needle, that's what we call the fly. Mike Manfred says, power company I worked for had bought a lot of remote derrick trucks, but they were set on the same frequency. Oh, that would be a mess. I couldn't imagine having 2 digger derricks within 300 feet of each other, and you're controlling both of them with one remote. Mitzvah said, grew up running friction cranes. We had a dog. Everything means locked drums. That's a fact. It's a little steel lock that locks up the drums. Nolan Williams says, hey, brother, love the content. Is the Operators Union the only answer for crane operating jobs? I got my card from third-party veterans program. Any recommendations? The Operators Union is not the only answer. And I will probably catch some flack from some people on this, but I'm a realist. There's got to be union. There's got to be non-union. And I'm not going to jump into the politics behind all of it, because I don't I don't do politics on this channel, but there has to be union, there has to be non-union. I get it. There are non-union companies out there that you can go work for. There's non-union companies out there you can go work for and earn a decent living. So I'm not going to sit here and throw stones at them, just like I wouldn't want a non-union operator coming on here and throwing stones at me. I mean, we're all humans. We all got to provide. And we as individuals have to decide what is the best way that we want to provide for ourselves and our families. So, pick what works best for you and run with it. Biggest thing with operating cranes, don't put yourself in a position where you're going to kill somebody or yourself. Plain and simple. Protect the machine and everybody around it. Lester and Thompson not getting picked out of the lineup's not a bad thing. John Warren says last summer we had a concrete pumper go over because he wasn't close to the pumper. And I'm getting way behind on comments. I'm trying to keep up, but Mitzvah says, Andrew, awesome young man. And I don't disagree. It is amazing some of the stuff that Andrew does and by himself. And that's why I said I completely admire his get it done attitude. I don't want him to get dead. He's got way too many subscribers watching him on YouTube to get himself dead now. I mean, he's 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. So that's halfway to a diamond play button, I believe, is what they give you at 1 million. So, Andrew, if you're still watching, if you want to send some of them over here, I would not be upset with you, my friend. Jim Harris, fishing trawlers have started using electric winches last year. They say less cost and maintenance. I could see that on a rig like that. Tradie Glam, I agree. Your booty can be an awesome sensor for something going wrong. That's a fact. And don't get me wrong, there are times I wish I wasn't sitting in that crane. Every so often, a hydraulic rig without riggers will let out a nasty pop when you transfer weight from one side to the other. And I've been operating that Tadano for 3 years. And sometimes when it happens, it still gets me. Let's see. John Warren, don't forget to smash that like button for the live stream, please. We got 60 people watching, almost 40 thumbs up. That's good. Mitzvah says, my brother and I go on Con Expo March 10th. I'll go who can. I am still going to try to get there. Mike says, what are your thoughts on synthetic versus wire slings for lifting large 24-inch structural I-beams? As long as your synthetic is rated for it and you have softeners on it, I don't see why it would be an issue. The biggest thing with rigging, as long as good rigging practices are maintained, your rigging should be fine. Well, as long as it's maintained and sized correctly. We talked about that in the first one, in the first rigging part 1, and I'm going to try to get rigging part 2 up maybe this week. As long as your rigging's sized correctly, it's connected correctly, and it's used correctly, then you shouldn't have any issue versus synthetic over wire. Wire, and I'm going to cover all this in the next rigging video, the pros and cons to each one, like chains, wire, rope, and synthetic, and then some of the other details, some of the working parameters and stuff like that. Lester and Thompson did my earlier comment about offering a job get flagged by YouTube. I'm not sure. You can try it again and see what happens. I'm not sure what happened with it. Joe Stocks asks how often you get to work with Ron Pratt. I have never worked with Ron Pratt. We are on opposite ends of the state. Ron Pratt is 6 hours by car for me. I would love to go down there and hang out with Ron, and I'll probably do that this spring or next summer. Ryan's 99, getting behind on comments is the price for being a knowledgeable professional. I guess I try to get to all of them, but I'm having to skip over some. And if I skip over your comment, I apologize. Throw it back up again, and I'll try to get to it. So, Richard Lincoln says, and it's getting into the politics, but he says that unions had a place, but I'm not sure anymore. I agree that avoiding political discussion is a good idea. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. And like I said, it's up to every individual to determine what they feel is best to support themselves and their family. James Bergeron, how are you doing? John 69, hello, Jimmy. How you been? Long time no talk. I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well. Ryan's 99, maybe a video on the process of learning a new crane. I'll show you step one of the process of learning a new crane. I'll be right back. If I don't trip over something and die. Okay, tripped over something, but I didn't die, so we're good. This is step one to learning a new crane. So I encourage oilers, people getting new into the field as a new employee or wanting to get into the field. If you get an opportunity to go out with a crane, get the books out of it and start reading it. Here's the secret. If anybody that works around me is watching this, if they want seat time, they got to read these. I had to read them. A person that's going to be sitting in the seat should read them. That's step one to getting in the seat. John 69 says, whatever happened to Thor's hammer? Thor's hammer is about half done, and I am going to put as much time as I can in on it this weekend. I have got to get that thing done. I even told my wife, I'm like, that thing has to get finished. Absolutely have to get it finished. Mitzvah says sharps cut nylon and Kevlar. Lester and Thompson, John Warren, I tried, must not meant to be. I don't know why it's kicking it out. KB, how are you doing? Says that camera that fell really took a beating. I don't know how many of you all watched that video in its entirety as far as that camera that fell, but I am absolutely astounded that it survived. It fell from 40 feet into the bottom of onto the hopper bottom of a rail car. So, yeah, I'm really surprised that camera survived it. Chef Matt says, I enjoy watching your videos. You taught me how to communicate more effectively. One of the things that Tradie Glam was concerned about was having the ability to talk on camera. If you knew me 3 years ago, I would not be sitting in front of this camera. Actually, my very, very first video, and there's a few of you that have watched it. I'd say probably vast majority of you on here have watched it. When I did the intro to the channel and the crane, I can't explain to you guys how nervous I was about that. Yeah, that was tough. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And then finally, you just start talking to the camera like you're talking to a person. The only difference is it's completely one-sided conversation. So if you're good at talking to yourself, you will excel at talking on YouTube. And, you know, if you ever see me talk to myself, I'm getting a professional opinion. So, Hunter Wells, how are you doing? Hope you're feeling better after your car accident. I won't elaborate too much, but Hunter Wells, you need to take care of yourself. Alex Williams is Blind Adventure. So I was playing with my track loader one day, instead of making the diesel sound when it's supposed to shut off, made the siren sound. Tradie Glam says, loving the chat, so informative, super cool. And here's the thing with my live streams. this is your first time on one, it might go from talking about cranes to talking about trucks like that. We just kind of roll with whatever. James Bergeron, that was a cool video when the camera fell. That video impressed me how robust GoPros are. They are tough. Walter Matson, how are you doing? Says the camera company should sponsor you. And Mike Manford, Tradie Glam, it's like this all the time. It is. I mean, it really is like this all the time. I just roll with it. Richard Lincoln says, just be yourself, Jimmy. We appreciate it. And what you guys see is what you get. With the exception, when I'm on camera, I don't use foul language. However, I am in the construction industry, and people know that construction people typically use cuss words like commas. I can't say that I'm any exception to that rule. However, when I'm on camera or doing a live stream, that doesn't happen. So other than that, what you see is what you get. And I'll warn you now, Tradie Glam, since you're getting into the realm of YouTube, and you've already experienced some of this when you posted your links to your videos on some other crane pages on Facebook. YouTube videos are completely different than taking a picture and posting it online. And here's why. And especially in the world of cranes. Cranes are very, very heavily scrutinized in the industry. Some people think they're terribly unsafe, and with certain operators in them, they are terribly unsafe. However, when you post a 15 or 20 or 30-minute video, you are in the microscope or under the microscope for that 15, 20, or 30 minutes. People will pick it apart. Sometimes people that don't have any idea what they're talking about will pick it apart. Sometimes there are people that do know what they're talking about that are still going to pick it apart. So you got to have some thick skin and be ready for that, because it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. Sometimes people aren't always the most tactful in how they word stuff in comments. So just prepare yourself for it, that if you put out a 30-minute video, for that entire 30 minutes, there's going to be someone sitting there watching and just waiting to find something that you screwed up on so they can call you out on it. Whether it's an upside down shackle, a twist in a nylon sling, maybe they didn't like the way the hook was hanging, whatever the case is. Maybe you stopped the load too fast. You're going to get some feedback, and some of it's not going to be very good. So blow them off. You can delete comments. If someone's really getting under your skin or harassing you, you can block them from your channel, but just be prepared for it. John Warren, I've always been good at talking to myself. Josh Wellner, how you doing, Josh? Says, what's you talking about tonight? Whatever you guys want to talk about. Hunter Wells says, I'm doing good. Glad you came out there. So, quick backstory on Hunter Wells. Great friend of mine's son was involved in a car accident. Fractured his L2 in his lower back and was in the hospital. So I left work early, made a point to go out and harass him for a little while for his driving abilities or lack thereof. But needless to say, he's on the mend and hopefully getting better. Mike Manford, we cuss like sailors. John Warren says, trust me, guys, he's no different here than on YouTube. And John and I had the opportunity. He was going through town hauling a load, and he and I had an opportunity to hang out, and we went to dinner together, and he got to meet my wife, and took him down to our shop, and he got to see the crane in person. I didn't have it set up, but we spent a couple hours together. And John, if you're rolling back through the area, you know my number. Let me know, and we'll do it again. Seth Grayson asks, are you going to drop the hammer through the skylight? It's not going to be the first video. I promise it won't be the first video, but I also can't promise that it won't happen. I mean, everything's fair game. It all depends on, it's all for the views. Tradie Glam once got in trouble for a pic for not smiling. I sometimes smile, but it's hard to tell under all this. And it's wintertime here. So, I mean, this is important. I've had people tell me I need to shave. I'm like, you need to mind your own business. So, yeah. Smedco, the perfect world the critics live in must be the same our salesmen live in when they bid jobs. That's a fact. And, you know, if at first it used to get under my skin and I used to take it personally, and people would throw a comment up and they're like, hey, why didn't you do it this way? I'm like, well, you know, one, you weren't standing here, so you didn't see the big picture. And two, if I'm putting my butt in the seat, I'm going to do it my way. Or, you know, I'm open to suggestions. If someone's on the job site, you know, you guys have seen Mike in my videos. Mike is a fellow crane operator, and he's a good crane operator, and he brings a lot to the table when we're on a job site, because he too has set up big cranes and made big picks. So there's a lot of times Mike and I will talk a pick out before we even set up. And I take his opinion on stuff, and I value his opinion. In my opinion, this is just my 2 cents. A good operator is not so set in his ways that he is not. A good operator should not be so set in his ways that he won't take the opinion of others. And if someone is providing good information, they should take that information and use it accordingly. I have worked around people that are so stubborn that you couldn't tell them anything. And to me, that's arrogance. And as soon as you become an arrogant crane operator, it's time to be a different kind of operator. Arrogance gets people hurt. So arrogance leads to complacency, and complacency kills. So that's another tidbit of advice I would put out there to anybody that's seeking to get into the crane industry. If you ever at any point in time in your career think that you know it all, it's time for you to not put yourself in the seat, because that is when something's going to happen. And I missed a bunch of comments. Matthew, hello from New Brunswick, Canada. Hello from Missouri, USA. James Bergeron says, I was trying to fix an air hose for my airbrush. Did not have any luck with it. Can't get the brass barb fitting into the end of the hose. Did you try putting the hose in very, very, very hot water? Depending on what kind of rubber it is, or, you know, it might maybe nylon hose or poly or whatever. Water that's almost boiling, put the end of the hose in it, and you'll have to test it out a little bit. Don't get it so hot that it melts, but get it to where it's good and pliable, and then try to put it on your fitting. You'll probably get it on there, unless it's a 1/4 inch off. But John Ward says, you know, anytime I can make down there, I will, or I'll do it. Chef Matt, I figured out what caused the camera to fall. You were a little confused, as were others. The winch line absorbs a lot of the shock loading and shifting. See you next comment for further explanation. Oh, yeah, I knew what happened. I knew exactly what happened when it fell. So I was using foundry hooks to pick those cars. And I had someone even say, hey, that's not the way cars are supposed to be picked. They've got pick points at the bottom. I, too, know that. However, the cars had been derailed, and the bottom of the cars on a lot of them were destroyed at one corner or the other. So we couldn't use all 4 of the factory pick points to pick the cars. The cars were, however, at a facility where they were going to get completely rebuilt. So cutting a hole in the top corners was not an issue. And if you do the math on it, each leg of the slings had about 15,000 pounds of tension on them. And that's what, 3/16 thick steel that makes the sidewalls of a car, maybe even a 1/4 inch, along with a big piece of channel and box tubing at the top of the car. So sure, the hook might tear through the 3/16 a little ways, but it's eventually going to stop when it gets to the angle. And we definitely know it's going to stop when it gets to the 4x6 or 4x8. I don't remember what it was, rectangular tubing at the top. So as I was picking the car up, a couple of the foundry hooks tore through the side of the car and stopped at that piece of angle. And it did put a little shock through the crane. And when it did, it popped the camera off the block. So it happens. But yeah, I had someone call me out on that. They're like, hey, that's not how cars are supposed to be picked. And I'm really surprised they used a mobile crane to re-rail the cars and didn't call in a contractor that does that. Here's the skinny on that. We do pretty much all the crane picks for that company. Their shop or their facility is literally less than 8 miles from our shop. The nearest re-railing company that brings in side booms and whatnot to re-rail rail cars is over an hour away. So to them, it makes more sense to have us buzz up the road, set up a crane real quick, throw a couple cars on some trucks and keep on rolling. I'm not the one that makes that decision. All I do is pull levers. King 2042, Miss Crane will hang your man parts from the crane boom if you drop the hammer through the skylight. If that channel blows up like I think it would, then that skylight is not off limits. I'm going to tell you guys that right now. If that channel grows like I think it's going to grow and do what I think it's going to do, like I said, it's not going to be the first video and it won't be the last video. But if that channel does what I think it's going to do, that skylight is not off limits. She'll just have to get happy in the same broken house that she got mad in, I guess. I can say that because she's not sitting right here. Tradie Glam, so treat the online people like I do on site. Tell them to bugger off. One thing I found that works really well on the channel, and you guys feel free. I'm giving you guys free reign. If you see someone that is being out of line in comments, I don't have a problem with you guys setting them straight, but do it professionally. And you know what works for me is I try to kill them with kindness, or I'll ignore it, one or the other. But there are times that, you know, on a job site I have to be a jerk. But in the world of online, and this is another thing that a lot of people don't understand, when you're dealing with written text, it's very hard to interpret emotion. So someone may be just pointing something out, but not meaning to come across as being a jerk, but actually the way they wrote it, to maybe I interpreted that they are. It's really hard to inflect emotion in written communication. So, you know, it is what it is. Just have some thick skin, keep on keeping on. You know, I've been doing this long enough as far as operating a crane and working around equipment. I've worked on heavy equipment more than 22 years, and I still have all 10 of these. So, you know, I'm probably doing okay. So I'm just going to keep on keeping on. Chef Matt says when the rail car shifted, hook moved more violently than the boom tip. No, the whole crane pretty well shook. It wasn't just the rope. When you have 50 some thousand pounds hanging on the end of your crane, you pretty much feel everything that happens to it. John Warren says, be arrogant in any industry. It's time for you to move on before you get yourself or someone else hurt or even killed. That's a fact. Smedco says at KB, I've seen that stuff on some overhead lift cranes, but since cable rarely gets dragged out by hand on cranes, the biggest advantage is diminished a bit. I could see that. And Smedco, I would take my hats off to you, but I don't have a whole lot of hair. Well, hats off to you. Yeah, you can see that's from working around people that try to tell me what to do. Anyway, hats off to you on that reply that you put on that comment for when I did that under the crane video. Your knowledge is very spectacular. So I appreciated that very much, how you laid everything out, and you went into very great detail on that comment on how those systems are integrated and how they work together. And I appreciate it very much. Mike Manford, you build her a new one. John Moore and Jimmy will be living in the doghouse making YouTube videos from there. Luckily, see, I've got a camper that's in my driveway, and my Wi-Fi reaches out there. So, I mean, if you guys see a live stream from a camper, you would know at some point in the near future there will probably be a video of a hammer falling through a skylight. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventure says, I'm hoping that one day I'll get to meet you and your family. I'm sure we'll travel down that direction, Alex, and before we do, I will get a hold of you. Barry Hansen, who retired with no broken bones, must have done something right. John Warren, you got more hair than me. James Bergeron says, I take a lot of care when I'm around heavy equipment to be safe and stay visual for the operator if I'm watching them. Also, if the operator tells me to leave, I leave. So we've got Kyle, he's been in a couple of my videos, and he is new to the crane world. And so we've had to really keep an eye on Kyle. Not that Kyle's done anything wrong. We have to keep an eye on Kyle just because Kyle doesn't know all the ins and outs and what's acceptable and what's not. And he's done a very good job of learning everything. But that's the biggest thing with people that are new to the crane world is teaching them to pay attention. So that's a big thing when being around equipment is make sure the operator sees you and that you don't put yourself in a position where you're going to get dead. And realistically, when it comes to cranes, if you don't really have any business near the crane, then you shouldn't really be near the crane. Now, I know we do some house jobs where there's kids running around and whatnot. Those kids, I don't let them in the vicinity, like in the near vicinity of the crane, unless I'm not doing something. Now, when I'm doing house jobs and setting a house on a basement for a family and they've got 2 young kids, as soon as their house is set on the basement, before we tear the crane down, those kids are in the cab sitting in the seat and parents are taking pictures. And I do that on every one of them if the kid is willing to get in the seat. I've even been on a job where we were, the time-lapse video that I did on the box culvert, we had the crane set up in a guy's driveway, essentially. And he picked his grandson up from school. And when we got done with the job, I had all the boom retracted and I had his grandson on the seat or on my lap in the seat of the crane. And he was swinging the crane around and, I was right there to do anything in case something happens. But that kid will remember that forever. And his grandparents were ecstatic. His parents were ecstatic. They got awesome pictures. And that's the kind of stuff that turns little kids into operators. So I try to do that as much as I can. But all right, off my tangent. Alex Ekenberger live streamed the hammer through the skylight. Where that hammer would come through the floor into the basement is only about 15 feet from where this desk is sitting. So I very well could do that. Richard Thorpe, safety first, targets last. Barry Hansen, I agree. Jimmy, only the rigger and dogman should be in the area. Yeah, and Another thing a lot of people don't understand too, when it comes to our work, 99% of the time, those aren't our job sites. That's a contractor's job site. So it's the contractor's responsibility to maintain a certain degree of that kind of stuff. So, but when it comes to house jobs, that's a little different deal. I mean, typically we're out in the middle of nowhere. There's no buildings around. There's not a lot of public around. The parents do a good job of keeping their kids at bay. And then once the job's done and before the crane leaves, that's when the kids get to play along. I actually did a house job where we had to drive quite a ways into the job, and the owner of the house met me at the end of the drive to lead me in and show me where I was going. And he was holding his, I think, 5-year-old, 4-year-old son. And I said, well, does he want to ride in the crane going in? So threw him in the passenger seat of the carrier, and he rode with me driving into the job site. I don't have a problem doing that kind of stuff. Willard Osborne, good night, Jimmy. Got to go. Well, thanks for stopping in. Hope you have a good evening. Josh Wellner, it's all about the kids in the end. That's why I work so hard for my kids, not me. Well, and that's the kind of stuff that they remember. Tradie Glam says, I put kids in the cab never when I'm lifting. I will never put them in there when I'm lifting. No way. If, God forbid, if something were to happen, that would be no good. So yeah, that doesn't happen. But I'm really hoping that I get to meet with Lute and we can put some stuff together where I can go meet some high school people and get them interested in what we do. Get them interested in building our future. Because to be quite honest, and I'm not going to get political with this either, but I've seen some of what's out there, what may be potentially building our future, and some of it scares me. So we definitely need to get some younger people on board with getting involved in this building and working with their hands thing. I would really, and you guys know what I'm getting ready to say next, I would really, really, really like to get Mike Rowe to come hang out with me for a day. Sprout 5199 said, speaking of kids, do you think there should be more tech school type learning, i.e. welding, plumbing, trade jobs? I absolutely do. Absolutely. I think taking shop classes out of high schools is one of the biggest mistakes a high school could make, and even middle schools. We had shop class in middle schools. We learned how to pour molten metal into molds and cast metal in middle school. We were casting aluminum and copper or aluminum and bronze in middle school. They don't do that anymore. They need to do it. And I'm going to probably catch a lot of flack for this too. I'd rather see them get rid of a football team than I would a shop class. Because fundamentally, if you look at the percentage of kids that go on to play professional football, is very minuscule and compared to kids that could go out and earn a good living in a trade. So in order of importance, I mean, I think math, science, a little bit of history, some English so you can read and write and learn how to work with your hands, and then let the kids decide if they want to go on to be doctors, lawyers, nurses, or plumbers, pipe fitters, carpenters, whatever. So Robert Sullivan says local high school might have a building trades class for a visit of a mobile crane. The high school that my son goes to does have a building trades class, and he is in it. He's in his first year of building trades, and I've actually talked to his instructor about bringing the crane up, and I haven't heard anything back from his instructor, so I need to go knock on his door. Joe Stocks, the general public scares me. I'm in the same boat. I like your peas there. Matt Lee, that's what gets kids interested in trades. I've had them around the service truck operating the crane on it, pulling the lug nuts off the truck and using torque wrench to install. That's all good stuff. Josh Wellner makes a good point too. Says welding would be great for any kid and you can do so much with it, or diesel mechanic. Yeah, and my son, whether he wants to or not, is going to learn to weld, period. Before he packs his bags and moves out of this house, he's going to be able to run a bead with stick and wire. So, that's a skill that everybody should have, even if you're not in the trades. Someday in life, he may decide he wants to restore an old car. Well, welding's pretty important in that. KB, not many kids today are interested in building anything that isn't electronic. That's a fact, Smedco. Even if someone doesn't go into the trades, they should at least know how to screw together a birdhouse or hang a picture. It's life skills. John Z, how are you doing, John Z? Said even the local defense contractors here are having a hard time hiring anybody in skilled trades. Lots of retirees and nobody to replace them. It's true. Walter Matson, maybe the next time there are kids on a job site, they could pick up one of their toys if time permits and everything. We could try that. Dirt Boss, how are you doing? Says, hi, bud. What state are you from? I am in Missouri, hour north of Kansas City. James Bergeron says, taking welding classes in high school, didn't get very far. I can do basic bead with stick welder. Had problems, but my teacher wouldn't help me. Would help everyone else. So, James, there is some very good, very, very good welding channels on YouTube. Chef Matt. We might be on the same page there with the exception of wrestling. I was a wrestler, so yeah, I don't want to see him get rid of wrestling in high school. Joe Stocks, he's a tow operator for local PD, sees all kinds of people. I'm sure you get to deal with the whole gamut. And what a lot of these younger people don't understand too is when you go to college, you have to pay for that. You have to pay hundreds of dollars per credit hour to sit in a classroom and let someone teach you what they know. They're not teaching you beyond what they know because they can't. But you're paying hundreds of dollars to sit in a classroom and have someone give you their knowledge. I'm giving it to you guys for free. But when you go into the trades, you're getting paid to learn. And that's what I explained to my son. He's like, he said, I don't know what I want to do, Dad. He said, I have to go to college to earn a good living, don't I? I'm like, no, you don't have to go to college to earn a good living. You just got to be able to be willing to work, put in the effort and work. And he said, well, how do I afford going through the apprenticeship? He's settled in on being an electrician. He wants to be an electrician. He said, how do I afford to go through the apprenticeship? I said, you get paid to go through the apprenticeship. They pay you to be there. I said, you're earning money the whole time you're learning versus paying someone to teach you. So that would be pretty appealing to a lot of kids. In 4 years, the average person in college, I don't know what they're going to pay for their bachelor's. I'm assuming it's pretty expensive. But I can tell you at the end of 4 years in an apprenticeship, a person could be sitting on $100,000 in the bank pretty easily. So, that's pretty cut and dried to me. Let's see. Get out of high school, have $100,000 in 4 years, or owe $100,000 in 4 years. And then make $100,000 a year thereafter, or make $50,000 a year thereafter and spend the next 15 years paying off my student loans, or 20 or 30 or whatever it is. Yeah. Tradie Glam said, my dad taught me to weld and service a car all before I left high school. He was a boilermaker. Then I went on to become a mechanic before getting to cranes. But those are great skill sets. And look where it puts you. Joe Stocks said how many people can't even find a spare tire on a car, let alone know what one is. It's also pretty sad how a lot of cars don't even have a spare tire in them anymore. Our government has said, hey, you got to get your fuel economy at 9 million miles per gallon, so ditch the spare. Sorry about the people that are stuck in the middle of Death Valley with a flat tire when it's 135 degrees outside with no cell phone service. I mean, I don't know who the genius was that came up with the idea that the spare tire was something that didn't need to be in the car, but he and I are not in agreement. I mean, that is a no-brainer. You're rolling around on 4 pieces of air-filled rubber. If one of them goes bad, you would really, really like to have a 5th one. Let's see. I know I missed something somewhere. Oh, Zach Porter, another good trade to get into is become a painter. That's a fact. Although there's a lot of people that don't have the patience for it. And I don't mind painting. I don't like the cleaning up afterwards. So when I paint, it's like with cheap paint brushes and cheap rollers and cheap paint pans, because when I'm done painting, I don't wash it. I throw it away. James Berger, I did set one of my friend's jeans on fire in welding class by accident. That's, it's to be expected. If you're in a welding class, some part of you is going to catch on fire at some point. Kathy Ann Giles says the tire thing is the same in the UK. So they've ditched spare tires in the UK also? Joe Stocks, actually some ATs have a spare tire rack on the back of them. Oh, Richard, I can't get into the politics, buddy. Sorry. Mike Manfred, I'm not understanding your comment there. Yes, Medco says that Joe Stocks most have it as an option. We've got a spare tire for our 180G. It just sits at our shop. And really, we don't venture so far away that I couldn't have my spare brought out to me within a couple hours. So I didn't realize they were pulling the spare tires out of cars over in Europe too. I mean, I can see it if you've got a $300 set or $300 a piece tire run flats on it, where you can at least drive 50 miles an hour. But you jump in your Ford Fusion with no spare tire that obviously doesn't have run flats. Of course, in Ford Fusion, if you get a flat, you could probably just knock off the nearest mountain biker and take his front wheel and keep on trucking. But, I think spare tires are important. That's really, what are you saving? 15, 20 pounds, maybe 30. Tradie Glam says still has them here, but our terrain is a bit different. We have some pretty nasty terrain around here too. Our biggest dangers are working in rail yards. There is a ton of crap on the ground at rail yards. Railroad spikes, stuff that's fallen off cars, all that good stuff. Oh, Kathy and Kyle's, instead of the tire, they give you a can of sealant. Why don't they just throw in a roll of duct tape? Like, hey, here's your bicycle pump and duct tape. 45 nuts, 400,000 student loan to a niece that's a veterinarian. That's almost $500,000. Wow. I think I may mess this up. Is it Halliger? I'm not sure. Went to college. Now I'm an operator. Don't regret going to college yet. If I had to do it again, knowing what I do know or do now, I would have gone to the apprenticeship route. Tell young people that often. King 2042 says a bottle of sealant is no use if you catch a curb with a tire. That's a fact. Unless you're going to use, wrap the bottle of sealant around, whatever. All right, some of you guys are throwing some comments out that are getting flagged. So please try to keep it family friendly. Chris 76 says if it's water-based paint, I'll rinse and reuse the brush and roller. I just buy the cheap dollar roller covers and brush and chuck them. Chef Matt, that mountain bike joke was awesome. I'm keeping that. Cecil McKinley plug kit and 12-volt air compressor. Richard Lincoln says, I apologize, Jimmy. I spoke out of turn. Forgive me, please. Where was it? Oh. It's not a matter of being forgiven. I don't have to forgive you for anything. It's just I try to keep these live streams and the whole channel in its entirety where anybody can watch it. So you don't have to ask me for forgiveness. You don't even have to apologize. I'm not one of those people. I'm not going to sit here and hound you over it. Some people don't know. They jump on a live stream and everybody's talking and they don't know. John Warren, they throw them out one more time, you'll go in timeout. Oh, one thing I forgot to ask earlier. I moved my lighting around a little bit in here. Better or worse? Is it, I don't feel like I'm glowing like I was, but I do have kind of a shadow there and getting some shadow from my glasses. But before I had all my light up front and it was pretty blinding. Now I've got one up here and one over here. All right, so lighting's good. I will leave it alone. It's pretty difficult to, and I would have never guessed it, but it's pretty difficult to adequately light a room for live streaming and have the stream turn out good. You think, oh man, it's just lights. Not really. You got to have enough of it and set at the right temperature, which not temperature as in freezing or cold or freezing or hot, but yeah, there's a lot of experimenting. James Bergeron says, better. I still laughed about the stream when the light fell off. That was funny. Oh yeah, we did have what all have we done? We've had a crane accident down here. Lights have fallen off the top of the monitor. What else? I don't know. I tripped over some stuff just earlier. Smedco says, look good, foreground lighting, little worse background. Tell me if this makes the background any better. Background better, worse? Mike Manfred, no wave action. Kathy Ann says, this proves it can be done if you're determined to learn. That's a fact. All right, Weiss Rock, how are you doing? Says, hello, Jimmy. We just made a big lift on my work site with the AC 500. It got in the passenger seat for a drive. The position in front of the first axle is so weird. How do you manage that? You just get used to it. Tradie Glam, that is a good question. And we've got 54 people watching. In comments, what do you guys think about females in the industry? I think it's fantastic. That's my opinion. Josh Waller, don't worry about the lights. I don't care. But I think it's fantastic having females in the industry. And realistically, I've been around female crane operators, and a lot of them make very good operators because they tend to have more patience. And if anybody tells you that you shouldn't be in the industry because you're a female, your response is to immediately kick them, you know where, and just walk away holding your head high. I guess you don't really have to do that, but just walk away, hold your head high, and don't pay attention to it. It should be like that there. It should be like that anywhere. I mean, I'm not one of those people that thinks that men can do anything or that men can do stuff better than women. Now, and I'm not going to, again, this is one of those places that could get political. There are certain things that men can do that women can't. Plain and simple. That's common sense. Most of the time, we're physically stronger. So, I mean, there are certain situations that men can do some stuff that women can't just because typically we're physically stronger. And we can also write our name in the snow while peeing without peeing on our legs. I mean, that's just true. That's the way it is. But there's no career that I can think of other than maybe a situation where you're going to have to drag people out of a situation that is life and death. And realistically, once adrenaline takes over, even females would be capable of that. I mean, I don't know. I can't think of a situation where a female would be any worse than a man in the trades. I just don't see it. You know, I don't. And having the patience, you know, I've seen my kids test my wife's patience, and in comparison, had the kids done that to me, my patience would have left a long time before my wife's patience did. So, Tradie Glam, you just keep on doing what you're doing, and show them how it's done, show them what you're capable of, and shut them up with your skill set. Plain and simple. I mean, jump in that crane, throw your makeup on in front of them, and then just run the hell out of it. Make them shut up. I mean, that's the best way to attack it. Let's see, Andy B, equal opportunity. Tradie Glam, you're stronger. That's why I have a crane. Hey, whatever works. Cecil McKinley says, women in the workplace is great, always willing to help or take advantage of their knowledge. I have worked with some fantastic women. Absolutely. Sprout says maybe a firefighter, but even then, you know, you hear stories of moms that have lifted cars up off of kids and stuff. You know, I can't imagine that a fireman going, or a firewoman, or whatever the case is, running into a burning building to rescue someone. I can't imagine that their adrenaline isn't off the charts to where they couldn't be capable of doing the same thing. I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't get it. If people are berating you for being in the trade, just show them up. And if you get in a situation where someone's commenting on one of your videos and they're just handing it to you, shoot me a message and I will come on and I got your back on your channel. Or if someone gets sideways with you on my channel, feel free to set them straight. So, you know, that shouldn't be an issue. And especially in this day and age, it shouldn't be an issue. Tradie Glam says we have heaps of female firefighters here in Australia. Need everyone, as you guys know, our country is a bonfire, and that my thoughts and prayers to everybody down there in that area. That is that's pretty serious amount of fires going on in Australia. I've seen some of the pictures, and it's heartbreaking. But yeah, if you got someone giving you a hard time in your comments, let me know. I will bring myself and about 9,000 subscribers over to have a field day with some people. John Warren, we got a couple volunteer fire company that do just as good as us men. Yeah. Sprout asks, when do you think you will end your career? I'm 53 and look to work at least another 15 years. I love my job and should be able to do it for that long. Based on the way our pension is structured, I'm hoping that I can hang my work boots up at around 60, maybe 62. Of course, it all depends on how Thor's hammer goes too. I mean, that might be one of those things that goes viral and, I do that full time. Who knows? It's hard to say. But as far as my career goes, the way things are set up, I will probably be able to hang my work boots up at 60. Or Rice Rock, that's a good point. It says that Tradie Glam, there's a YouTube channel from a woman who drives excavators, Duck Girl 86, and she is just one of the best operators I've seen in my life. And I've seen some of her videos, and she does a fantastic job. And realistic, and she's got a lot of subscribers. So, Tradie Glam, it would behoove you to go watch some of her stuff, subscribe to her channel, and try to do some collaborating with her. Collaborating on YouTube definitely helps a lot. Richard Thorpe, everybody looks to get out in the end. And Mike Manfred said, I'm game. I'm guessing Mike Manfred's game to going over to Tradie Glam's channel and blowing some people up if they get sideways. Sprout 5199 says, good for you. Do you want to hang it up at 60? It just depends on, what's going on. I don't know. 60s, I say 60 is such a long ways away, but really it's not. I'm over halfway through my career. It's hard to say. I don't think I will ever completely get out of this trade. And by what I mean by that is it's some way, in some shape or form or another, I will always be involved in this trade, whether it's sitting in the seat or teaching people or hanging around someplace and pestering people with old school knowledge. And, I will always be involved in it at some point. And the reason why I say that is I can't say us older people, but at that point I will be an older person, and it is my job to pass my trade on to younger people that want to learn it. So I think that's my duty. It's my duty to my fellow humans to make them better fellow humans if possible. Joe Stocks says, good to be here, though. I've got to get ready for bed. Thanks for stopping in, Joe Stocks. Sprout 5199, become a teacher. I did have someone tell me on my rigging video, what was the wording that he used? I would have to look it up on my phone. Oh, mundane. He said the information was great, but it was the most mundane delivery or something like that. I'm like, it's math and it's basically schoolwork. I don't know how to make that exciting. And realistically, I'm not one of those people that's really excitable. That's probably why I'm good on a crane, because I don't freak out and panic. But Steve Diamond, did Camerata tell you where to go yet? No. He was on here earlier on the live chat, and we had a short, decent conversation. Andrew knows I was just trying to help him out. He knows I wasn't calling him out or being a jerk to him. Andy B, just think of how many people we've met because of YouTube. It blows my mind. This whole YouTube thing, it blows my mind. I mean, it is a worldwide platform. I've emailed people in India. I had a guy from India email me a picture at the end of his boom. He couldn't figure out how to reeve his ropes. I'm like, dude, you need to get your manual out for one. And if you don't know how to evenly reeve your ropes, you probably don't need to be sitting in the seat. But if I was sitting in the seat, this is how I'd have it reeved. And I drew him a picture and sent it to him. Backing up in comments a little bit. Smedco going to beat on the apprentices at JTC once you retire, so somehow it's done. I don't know about that. King 2042, I see you as a teacher. You have the ability to impart knowledge. Walter Madsen says, I'm sure there's great women operators. I'd have no problem with one. Absolutely. Ryan Huey, how are you? Says you'll be like them old friction hands. Had the fish fry at the union meeting with the old war stories. Richard Lincoln says teaching would suit me. Barry Hansen, people when taught respect older people. Cecil McKinley, I'd be a great instructor. You're doing it right now. And I guess I really kind of am. Stephen Shaw said I'd make a great crane inspector. Being a crane inspector is a whole different ballgame. There's a lot of liability in that. Or a rice rock would be, best thing would be a safety lesson with Jimmy and Rod Pratt. Steve Diamond, cool, just jesting. I'm cool with that. You guys can make me the subject of jokes. I don't have a problem with that. I grew up with two older brothers. I was the youngest of three boys. You guys aren't going to put me through anything that I haven't been through already, I promise. Sprout says, in my field, electronics, what I know is no longer relevant. I know tubes and transistors, not microchips or codes. Some of the old tube amps sound really good, though, compared to some of the transistor stuff. Smedco, I don't know where you're located, Smedco, but at some point, I would not mind having you sitting here during a live stream, just based off of that one comment that you threw out there. I would just walk out of the room and let you take over for a while. Hunter Wells, when's the interview with Dad? I've been waiting for. I can't get your dad to come on here. Jacob Mello, thank you for the compliment. Says, I happen across your channel and enjoy all the knowledge you provide, and the way you provide it in a calm, collected manner is awesome. Listening is audio while I started my drive home. Thank you for that. Oh, Alex says, as soon as yeah, Tradie, Tradie Glam, Alex says, as soon as you upload a video with that music and actually has the machine running, he'll definitely give you a sub. Alex Williamson's Blind Adventures is, as far as I know, my only blind subscriber, so he listens to everything. And I've even toned down a lot of the music in my videos so Alex can enjoy it along with everybody. My first string of videos for quite some time had a lot of music in it, like when I was fast forward and stuff. And I still do it occasionally, but I've gotten to where I just add a little bit of background music on some of them. I actually had someone tell me on my video with all the, picking the rail cars with the 3 different camera views that they didn't like the music and that they quit watching at 3 minutes and 23 seconds because of the music. I didn't think it was that overpowering, but maybe it was. I don't know. One thing I've figured out is it is impossible to make content that makes everybody happy. So there's that. Let's see. Ryan Huey said, I always wondered if even half of them are true. I'll talk about the stories from the old guys. James Bergeron says, I'm still going to learn to be an operator, but since there's no GD programs in my area, that's making it hard since companies won't take anyone. You're going to have to find someplace to go get your GED so you can get that done. Smedco says, I'd be honored going to have to make my way down there from Philadelphia one of these days. That is a long drive, my friend. And Alex, he says, it's not for any mean reasons. It's just because I like to hear a person's voice and I like to hear the machine in the background and explaining what's going on. Tradie Glam says, fair enough. Says Alex Williamson's Blind Ventures, I'm still getting the courage to talk on camera. The only way to do it is to do it. Even if you're just recording yourself talking on camera and you don't even use the footage for a while, just get used to talking to the camera. You don't have to stare at it and talk into it. Even when I'm doing live streams, I very seldom look up and stare right into the camera. But just get used to talking to your camera. At some point, you'll get to the point where you're just talking to it like someone was sitting next to you listening the whole time. And that's basically what's happening. When you're sitting in the seat, when I'm sitting in the seat and I'm narrating what's going on in the pick, I'm basically talking out loud like I was explaining what I was doing to someone that was sitting next to me that had no idea what's going on. And I know that there's a lot of seasoned crane operators that watch the videos on the channel. And I know there's a vast majority of people that don't know anything about cranes that are watching what's on the channel. So I explain things, or try my best to explain things to where anybody can understand it. And I've even had people comment, well, you don't need to dumb it down that much. Well, I'm not dumbing it down. What I'm doing is I'm explaining in layman's terms what we're doing so everybody can figure out why and what we're doing. So there you have it. Just talk to that camera you're not even talking to the camera. Just talk in your cab like someone's sitting next to you that has no idea what you're doing, and explain why and what you're doing. Then do it in a way that anybody can understand it, like you were trying to explain it to a 10-year-old. Taurus 420 says, make the content that you like. All the bells and whistles will come with time as you develop your channel. And that's what I'm doing. A friend of mine, Randy with G4 Outdoors, when I first started doing all this, I was like, I'm probably going to add some dubstep stuff in the videos. And he's like, what? Why would you put dubstep music in your videos? And I'll tell you guys why I initially chose that. What I do is very industrial, and dubstep is also very industrial. It also has, typically it has a very fast rhythm. And if I was fast forwarding through clips and stuff, that is very fast footage. So I was trying to basically make the audio match what was going on in the video. And I thought maybe it'd work out. And, it is what it is. It's a learning process. But now I just try to add a little bit of background music. If I'm really speeding something up, then I'll throw some music in, because it sounds terrible if you leave the audio. Like on that video with the rail cars, when I was getting ready to tear the crane down to move to the next car, I sped that footage up 8,000%. So it sounded horrendous. So I had to put something over it. So I put the fastest guitar picking music on it that I could find, and that's what I went with. Our Weiss Rock, Thanks for that. That's actually a very good compliment. Thank you. He says Tradie Glamour like Jimmy on his work site. His technique is really good. The image of the work and explanations. King 2042 says at Tradie, don't forget the crane is talking, so maybe you don't need to talk all that much. And I probably talk more than what I need to. Sometimes I don't talk at all. It just depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing something really stressful, then I typically shut up for a little bit until it's over with. This Ren says, hey, Jimmy, any advice for an apprentice? I just started in crane rental a couple months ago, and there's so much to learn. It's very difficult. What are some things you appreciate from an oiler? I appreciate an oiler learning as much as possible and not having an attitude. Also, reading the books so that they know some of the assembly, disassembly procedures and stuff like that. It's a very good practice to have someone involved in the assembly and disassembly that knows what's going on as well, because then you're checking each other's work. And I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem at all with an oiler saying, hey, you missed that, or shouldn't you look at this, or why did we do this a certain way? Because that makes me double check myself. And I don't have a problem with that. If you're working for an operator that says, hey, don't question me, don't ever work for that operator. Because at that point, his arrogance is through the roof, and he's going to get complacent and probably get you hurt. So don't be afraid to ask some questions. Get in with a good operator that's willing to teach and give you some seat time when if you show the initiative to want to get in the seat and learn. Just try to absorb as much as possible, but don't try to take it all in at once because it'll be overwhelming. Start with the small stuff and just work your way into it. If you've been into it a couple months, you've already learned a lot more than what you knew a couple months ago. But what I look for in oiler, someone that is willing to get after it when you need to get after it, because there are times when you got to bust your butt and get the crane put together and get things going. But I also want an operator that knows the machine by reading the book and picking stuff up, and then isn't afraid to ask questions and point stuff out. If something doesn't look right or doesn't feel right and the operator doesn't see it, don't be afraid to point it out. If they try to get your money or yell at you for that, then you don't want to work for them anyway. If there's a big puddle of oil on the ground underneath the crane and you walk up to him and say, hey, you're leaking something, like, hey, don't bother me. Well, you don't want to work with that guy or girl, whatever the case. So, that's kind of what I look for. James Bergeron said, I also had Alex Williamson's comment on my videos about the music I use. It's made me change the way I do my videos. I've cut out the music when I do my videos now. King 2042 says he loves the sound of the clicker and the Tadano. I don't know how many people have asked me what the clicker's for. Lots and lots and lots and lots of people have asked me what the clicker's for. If anybody's watching and they don't know what the clicker's for, it's an indicator that lets me know the winch is turning at approximately how fast. Smedco says, nice, good crane too. Very versatile chart for its size and roadability. Sprout 5199 says, do you have a teacher that made a difference in your life? Mine is Dr. Hux, a tunnel rat from Vietnam, got his PhD in psychology, but taught metal shop. I will always remember him. And I do. I'm not going to name his name on here, but I had a small engines teacher in high school that was in infantry in Vietnam. And also he taught electronics. So I took his electronics class and his small engines class. And needless to say, I was not the best student in high school. I was one of those people that, I didn't really like to do my homework and turn it in. And that teacher told me I was the smartest person to ever fail his class. And that kind of stuck with me. But I learned a lot from him. But I'd say one of the biggest things I learned from him is it doesn't necessarily matter. I mean, you don't necessarily have to prove yourself to anyone. You just have to do it. You have to do it for yourself. You don't have to prove it to anyone else. You have to do it for yourself. And that's kind of what he taught me when he made that statement to me. He said, "You're the smartest person that's ever failed my class." And that stuck with me. I mean, it's 25, 26 years ago, and I still remember it to this day. Him standing in front of me, yelling at me. He was so upset because he knew I had the potential and I just wasn't applying myself. And I wasn't applying myself because of the wrong reasons. I wasn't applying myself because I was being lazy and I felt like, hey, I'm not going to prove anything to them. It wasn't a matter of proving it to them. It was a matter of proving it to myself that I was capable of doing it. So, yeah, I absolutely have a teacher from high school that really left a lasting impression on me. Smedco at this round, to piggyback what Jimmy said, it also gives you the chance to open a discussion whenever there's a variation from the book. The seasoned guy explaining why is some priceless education. They're absolutely, I mean, those engineers that write the manuals for the cranes, they can only cover so many situations. And that's where some gray area stuff starts falling in. And actually, that's where a person starts opening themselves up for a little bit of liability. But there are times where you have to use common sense and deviate from what is written in black and white. I'm not saying it's a good practice, and I'm not going to say it's a bad practice, but there are certain situations when you have to make things happen, and you can't do it exactly the way it's written in the book. Those books are written in somewhat of a perfect world scenario. So, having a good seasoned operator that's willing to teach you can teach you the differences between when you should do it a certain way and when you shouldn't do it a certain way. Jason Helsley, how are you doing? He says, why the odd live stream times? I was going to do one yesterday, and I watched the Chiefs game earlier in the day, and then did some stuff around the house, and I got the garage all prepped and ready for next weekend, which is going to be a hammer building marathon. It's probably going to require copious amounts of welding rod and whiskey, but we are going to forge ahead. Smedco, good point. Provided the seasoned guy doesn't give you the do as I say, not as I do. Richard Thorpe, yeah, we're all here on a live stream. Funny that. I must have missed something there. Victor says you have oiler apprentices. How does IUOE apprenticeship work where you're at? My apprentices are journeymen. The way it works, though, is you apply for the apprenticeship program. If you get accepted, then they let you in. You go through some classroom training for about 4 years, and then you prove yourself and get turned out as a journeyman. So you spend 4 years learning and a lot of on-the-job training, so you're getting paid. And after 4 years, you're turned out full scale, provided you do everything correctly. Lakeside Ranch, how are you doing? Good evening, Doug. He says, good evening, Jimmy, here watching from Massachusetts. As always, much respect for what you do. Thank you for that. Jason Helsley, okay, do I need to send some good bourbon your way? I will never turn down good bourbon. However, I also don't mind Jim Beam. And I know some people are like, wow, you can, Jim Beam, why wouldn't you drink something better than Jim Beam? Jim Beam's not bad whiskey. Victor, what's the heaviest crane in your shop? Our 200-ton, our Tadano 180G-5 is our biggest rig. It's a 200 American ton crane. Brian Angel, you don't have to be the best at your job, just be damn good at it. On-the-job training is better in college. Jason Helsley, Beam is considered top shelf bourbon. Not if you talk to some of the people around here. Evidently, I know some bourbon snobs that are like, oh, you're drinking Jim Beam? Well, why aren't you drinking Maker's 46? Because I like Jim Beam. KB, they have old moonshine and SCs now, or SC now. Yeah, it's always been my go-to. It's Jim Beam. And I'll probably have some of that next weekend while I'm burning through about another 100 pounds of welding rod. So for stats on that hammer, I have already put 100 pounds of welding rod in it. That's a lot of welding. Mark Hewitt says, I'm watching from around 30 miles or 4 or 5 distilleries over here in Scotland. Mark, you would probably be very good friends with my wife because she is on me about taking a trip to Scotland. Oh, Ryan Huey, thank you for that. You didn't have to, but I appreciate it. That'll buy whiskey this weekend. But yeah, Mark, my wife she's going to drag me to Scotland if she's got to tie me to the back of a boat and row me across the Atlantic, I think, at this point. So we've got to make a trip there. At some point, I would love to go to Australia and New Zealand. I would like to go to New Zealand so I can meet Barry Hansen. And there's a few people in Australia that I would like to shake hands with. And, you know, like I said, Scotland is on my wife's bucket list. Ryan Huey says, appropriate what you do. Well, I greatly appreciate it. Richard Thorpe, when Scotty forged Thor's hammer, I just can't do it. Ken says, hey, Jimmy, from Northern Illinois, when I worked in HVAC, had to replace a number of rooftop units, always called for a crane. Love all your jobs, large and small. Thank you for that. KB, I haven't talked to Ron Pratt since Christmas. Probably ought to give him a call in the next few days. I haven't talked to him in a while. See how everything's going. Matt Lee says, thanks for letting me play along tonight, Jimmy. Good live stream on getting the kids involved with the trades. Love to help out if you get the chance to get in front of them, and maybe I could join you. I would be absolutely down with that. We can let me talk to the individual we were speaking about earlier and see if we can get something put together. Josh Wellner, I have a boat, just saying, don't know if I want to cross the Atlantic. I don't know that I would want to cross the Atlantic in any boat. From what I understand, that's a pretty angry ocean at times. Yeah, for those that don't know, I got a thing against being on or in the ocean. Mark says lots of whiskey and lots of heavy cranes where I am. A 750 and a 500 in town right now. Those are some pretty big rigs. But yeah, I've got this thing about being on or in the ocean. So a cruise has been mentioned on more than one occasion in our house, and a cruise has also been forgotten, and the topic has ended abruptly many times in our house. I'm just one of those things. 100% of ocean-related fatalities involve being in or on the ocean. So if I don't put myself in or on it, I'm not going to die from it. And there's things in there that we don't even know about. KB, if you can't drive, then forget it. I would fly to Scotland. I mean, at least I'm over the ocean, I guess, but you know, I don't know. Call me a sissy. Mike does all the time. He's been on me to go on a cruise forever, and I just not going to do it. If I can't walk up to the front of the boat and smack the guy driving it if he starts doing something stupid, I'm not getting on the boat. Dave, I guess the barge crane is out of the question. Oh, I would operate a crane on a barge, I guess, just not in the ocean. King 2042 says, water's for fish. You only go 14 foot up in the air. You're not leaving the States, buddy. I've flown. I've never flown over the ocean, but anyway, I've been going for about 2 hours and 16 minutes and 7 seconds. And I know we've still got 48 people watching, and I appreciate everybody that tunes into these and that watches the videos, and you guys sharing the videos and liking the videos. That's what makes this thing grow. And we have reached an audience that is way above and beyond where I thought I would be in 2 years. And I mean, we are coming up on 2 years. February 3rd, I think, is the 2-year anniversary of this channel. So, you know, almost 10,000 subscribers in 2 years. That's, to me, that is mind blowing. But I couldn't do it without all of you. And I greatly appreciate everything you guys do as far as helping the channel, asking great questions, spreading the word, all of that. So absolutely appreciate you. Appreciate you all. D. McDonald, your package is in the back seat of my truck. So with any luck and some perseverance, it will be at FedEx tomorrow. But so 2 hours and 17 minutes now. You guys go check out those other channels I told you about earlier. If John would like to throw those up in there again, real quick, fast, in a hurry, if he's still on here. But Tradie Glam, go check out Tradie Glam. That is a new channel that is going to be growing. I promise it will grow. And then Tristam Mays, Tristam Mayes. So go over to Tradie Glam and let's see. Quick, fast, in a hurry while we're still on here. Tradie Glam is currently sitting at 22 subscribers. We've got 44 people watching. And then we're going to have some more people who will watch this in the future. Let's see if we can get Tradie Glam to 100 by this weekend. That would be pretty cool. And then let's see if maybe we do another live stream in about 3 weeks. See if we can get Tradie Glam to like 500 subscribers in the next month or so. Because I think she's going to put out some pretty good content. But anyway, there's the 2 links. John Warren put them in here. Tradie Glam also just commented. You can click right there, go straight to her channel. I hope all of you have a fantastic and safe week. I'll keep you guys posted on how things go with meeting up with some people from the local schools and see if we can actually record some of that. It'd be pretty neat to record some high schoolers getting some crane activity. But yeah, I'm going to quit rambling. You guys have a great week. Thank you for everything. You guys keep me humble. Two Top Crane is out.